Welcome everybody coming in from the waiting room here. Glad you could all join us on this beautiful Monday afternoon. Hopefully you're all here to learn how to crochet the Twinkle blanket using our cute little chenille yarn nap time there. Darren is your teacher there on screen. He'll be the one guiding us through this pattern. My name's Claire. I'll be hanging out in the chat here on Zoom, answering any questions there or forwarding them to Darren. I'll also be putting the link to the pattern and the pattern PDF there if you didn't get a chance to grab that already. A reminder, if you do have questions over the course of the class, please just type them in the chat box there and we'll get to them that way. And also a reminder, this class is being recorded. So if you need to watch something again, you can go back and do that. It'll be available tomorrow afternoon on michaels.com/classes. And with all of that out of the way, I'm going to let Darren take over.
Okay, welcome to class. We've got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and change the view to the view of my hands, and we will get started with some learning. So today we're going to be reviewing this pattern. It's a free pattern from lionbrand.com, and it's also available, I think it's available on michaels.com as well. I'm going to be using this yarn called NAPTIME, and this is by Lion Brand, and it's available at lionbrand.com or on michaels.com. Today I am using, let's see what size it recommends. It recommends a 5mm hook, but today I'm using a 4mm. So you can use whichever hook is going to get you the right gauge that you need or give you the fabric that you like. Okay. And it is, like Claire said, it is a chenille yarn. It's very soft. It's very fluffy. So really, really nice to work with. Makes a beautiful project. Before we get started, I do want to go over some of the abbreviations that we're going to have. People frequently ask to see what the abbreviations look like. So BEG stands for the beginning. CH stands for chain. CH-SP stand for, it means chain space. That would be on the previous row. DC is double crochet. REP stands for repeat. RND with an S or not is the round or rounds. RS stands for the right side, as in right side and wrong side. SC is a single crochet. SK means skip. SLST is a slip stitch. SP with an S or not is space or spaces. And ST is stitched or stitches. So the abbreviations are listed on the back of the pattern. And remember, it is a free pattern, so you can always print an extra copy if you need to. So with all of that being said, I want to go ahead and get started. Let's just go ahead and start with the beginning. So it's having you use two colors because that's what's going to help this chevron pattern to stand out. So it's using color A and color B. And of course you can decide what you want for A and B. So I'm using lilac, which is a pale purple, and a pink. And there's not a lot of contrast between them. You might want to choose yarns that have a stronger contrast. You get a more dramatic effect. Okay, so the first instruction is telling us to chain 4 and join with a slip stitch in the first chain to form a ring. So I'm going to make my slip knot. We've reviewed slip knots before. So there's my slip knot. Chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go back into that original, the beginning of your chain, and join it with a slip stitch. But because there's always more than one way to accomplish any job, We could do a magic ring for this one. So I'm going to show you the magic ring. You make a slip knot just like I did before. Although it's crucial, it's very important that the tail that you're going to leave is what will control the size of your slip knot. So if to achieve that, you can lay it out like this in a loop and make sure the tail is on top. So it's the short bit over the long. The long tail is attached to your working yarn and the short tail is just short because it's your tail. You're going to put your fingers in the middle of the circle, sneak underneath, grab hold of your tail, and then holding the tail and the working yarn together, pull it up like that. And this is going to make a magic ring. And as you can see, oops, it's twisting. As you can see, my tail is what is controlling the size of it. So instead of starting like the pattern instructs, you could choose to do a magic ring. And if you do choose to do the magic ring, then you're going to skip the first instruction, just go to round 1. And it's going to have you chain 3 and then work 3 double crochet in the ring and then join with a slip stitch at the top of the beginning. So you can go ahead and do that. You can start either way you want, whichever way you like better. It really doesn't matter. The magic ring, when you pull it tight, it closes up that center hole and cinches it up really tight. But for this one, it's not so important because it's kind of a lacy blanket and you do get there's little lacy holes anyway. So I am going to do it and follow the pattern because I like that a little better. I find working with that magic ring a little fiddly in my hand. And so, but I just always like to show more than one option if there are options available. Okay, so chain 4, join with a slip stitch, and then chain 3. Now this chain 3 is going to count as a double crochet. So we're going to pretend throughout the entire pattern, whenever we're doing our chain 3, we're chaining up 3. That is going to be it's going to also count as our first double crochet. And so for a double crochet, you wrap your yarn around your needle, enter the center, bring up a loop, pull it through 2 loops, and then pull it through the last 2. Yarn over, go through the center, bring up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 1, 2, 3. So you want to make sure that you're counting them as you go. 4, 5. And I want to show you something else that I'm doing that really helps for later on. You see, here's my tail. I'm holding my tail along the edge of my chain 4. And when I'm making my stitches, I'm going right in. I'm going right in the center. And I'm making my stitches around that tail. And I'm trapping it inside the stitch. Oops, I didn't do a double. I'm trapping it inside the stitch, and that then I won't have to weave it in later. So if you hate weaving in your ends, you can do that to quite a few of the ends on this project. Let me see if you can see. Can you see how I'm doing that? I've got my tail here, and I am just holding it along that chain 4 edge. And as I make my stitches, I'm bringing that stitch over the tail, and that tail ends up in the middle of the stitch. And then I won't have to weave that in. When I get, especially with a fuzzy yarn like this, it'll be very secure, and I can just cut that off when I'm done. Any questions about that? Has anyone done that before? Oops, I dropped my my tail. So I wasn't paying attention and I've lost count of my stitches. So let me quickly show you how to count them. So there's my first, that counts as one, but we're not really going to count that right now because it said make that and then do 11. So I'm going to count 11. So you can count them here. You can count this post as a stitch, or you can count them, these chains that run along the top. So you can do either way. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that was lucky. I stopped right in the nick of time. Okay, does that make sense how to count them? You're going to be looking for these little kind of V shapes at the top, or you can count the post. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, along that way. And then I'm going to join at the top, into the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch. And a slip stitch is, so you just enter the stitch, you don't yarn over first, bring up a loop, or wrap your yarn, I'm sorry, pull it through, and then pull it through. And now it's joined with a slip stitch. And you end up with this cute little circle. Now, if I would have done the magic ring, I would be able to pull the tail, and that would close up very tight in the center. But since I didn't, it's going to remain a hole there. But because it has other holes in it, it's going to look all right. Now, if this were the top of a hat, you might not want that. So that's why it's important to know the magic ring. And this always have choices. You can do it however you want. Okay. So that's round 1 done. Any questions? About anything we've covered? No questions at all? Okay. So round 2. Oh. Okay, so round 2, it wants us to chain 3, and that will count as a double crochet in this and all following rows. So just remember, we're going to double crochet in the same stitch as the joining slip stitch, so that's easy. And then double crochet in each stitch around, 2 double crochet in each stitch around. So be very careful when you're reading the pattern. Read what's actually there, not what you think is going to be there. That's good advice because I do that sometimes. 2 double crochet in each stitch around, and then join with a slip stitch. So basically, we're just going to double the amount we have. So I'm chaining 3, going in to do my first one. And then to do 2, it's very easy. All you do is go through, like you're going to do 1 stitch, bring up a loop, make your double crochet, and then you just go in the exact same stitch. Okay, and then you move to the next one.
Quick question, Darren.
Okay.
We're going under both loops of the stitch, correct?
Yes.
Not just through the back loop?
No, both loops. Always go through both loops of the stitch unless if it instructs you otherwise. And sometimes it will. But if it doesn't say that, what you're going to do is you're going to find right there, and there are 2 loops. Go under 2 loops. So you're going to look for that kind of V shape on the top and go through both. So, and you're going to go through, do that twice. Okay, pretty easy. Any questions about doing the increase? Okay. Okay, so just like magic, I'm done with my increase. So there we go. Now, I want to talk a little bit about stitch markers. So let me remove these stitch markers. And then I'll show you why they're important. So I'm going to unravel a little bit so I can finish this round and show you how to finish it. So when you get to the very end, read what it is telling us to do. 2 double crochet in each stitch around, join with a slip stitch in the top of the beginning chain. So very easy. So here is my last double crochet. So I'm going to do 2 in that one. And join with a slip stitch in the top. And sometimes it's easy, like you might want to put a stitch marker there just to kind of keep your place. So that's the slip stitch that I used. I just joined it with a slip stitch and I just popped that stitch marker right on there. Just so that you know that's the end of the round and that's where you joined with a slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And this one will be more helpful for you and you'll need this one more often. So I'm going to put a stitch marker right on my chain 3. Now I'm not putting it on the same loop that my hook is on because you don't usually count that. The one on the hook usually doesn't count, but the next one down is the one we're looking for. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to pop this stitch marker right on there. And that will be very helpful later, especially for beginners. I don't always do that when I'm working, but with a fuzzy yarn like this, especially for a beginner, you want to be able to keep track of where you are. And sometimes it's hard to see. Okay, so round 3, chain 3 to start, and that counts as our double, remember. And we're going to skip the same stitch as the joining slip stitch. And then we're going to do a V stitch. So we're going to, we'll skip the next stitch, and then we're going to do a V stitch in the next stitch, and then repeat from the asterisk. So we're going to skip a stitch, and then do a V stitch. So pretty much every other stitch, we're doing this V stitch. Now what in the world is a V stitch? We've never heard of that before. But whenever you have a stitch like that, they give you a stitch explanation. So the V stitch is double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, wherever it's indicated. So that's pretty easy. We know how to do all of those things. So we're going to skip this one, and we're going to go right in here. So we're going to double crochet, chain 2, and then double crochet. And that is the V stitch, and it kind of creates this little kind of V shape with the posts of your crochet. And then we're going to skip the next one. So find that next V that normally you would go into. We're going to skip it, and then we're going to double crochet, chain 2, and then double crochet in that same stitch. Any questions about what I'm doing or how I got here? How we doing? Okay. So we're going to skip the next one and go in the next stitch. So double crochet, chain 2, and then double crochet. So this is pretty easy. How are we feeling about it? Okay. Any questions about the V stitch that we're doing? All right, so as you can see here, I finished all of my V stitches. Let me see if I can unravel it a little bit so I can show you how to finish it. I'm going to place a stitch marker. I didn't put a stitch marker here when I was making it, but I'm going to put one so you can see how much easier it helps it. So 1, 2, 3. that is my third chain. And so at the end of row 3,
I've got a question, I think, on row 2, Darren.
Okay.
Donna wants to know where you skipped the first stitch in that round.
Okay, so row 2 counts as the double crochet in this row and all that follows. Double crochet in the same stitch as the joining stitch, as the slip stitch. Double crochet in each stitch around.
Sorry, maybe it's round 3 where you just did the V stitches. I got my numbers wrong.
Okay. Let's go back. All right, so it is telling us so right here is where we joined it, right here. And then that is the first stitch. So we're skipping that one. So we're skipping kind of this little stitch right here where we joined it. We're skipping the first stitch, and then we're going in here to start our V. Does that help?
Maybe you could zoom your camera in a little.
So here's my chain. Oh, no, that's not. Let me go back. So here's my chain. And there's one that I joined to. So that's the first one. It's saying to skip the joining chain. And then here's the first stitch. So skip that one. And so go into the next one. Is that more clear or no?
Yeah, I think just holding it closer to the camera there helped.
Because, yeah, so that's all you do. And then you just do your V stitches all the way around. And when you're finished, it will look like this. And so you kind of get this little lacy open looks. It's real cute. And that's why I think this center hole doesn't look so bad, because you're ending up with these little holes anyway. And then at the end, we're going to join it with a slip stitch. So let's double check that.
Sorry, Darren. Question on the beginning there. You're skipping 2 stitches in a row, right?
Yeah, it seems a little odd to me too, but it says skip the same stitch as the joining slip stitch. So when you join it with a slip stitch and then you chain 3, that chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So they're counting that as part of that stitch. And then it's having you skip the next stitch because we're doing every other stitch. And then that's why it's kind of seems like the third stitch where you're doing your first V. And let me show you how we end it, and that might help make it a little more clear. So you're going to repeat your V's to the last stitch, skip the last stitch, and then double crochet in the same as the joining stitch. So that we're kind of finishing that first one now. And then we're going to chain 2 and join with a slip stitch at the top of the chain 3. Okay. Okay, so it was telling us to the last stitch, skip the last stitch. So here's my last stitch right here. So I'm skipping my last stitch right there. And I'm going to do a double crochet in the same one as my joining stitch. So right here where I did the slip stitch to join before. And then I'm going to chain 2. And then with this stitch marker, it's marking the place where I need to join with a slip stitch because that's the top of my chain 3. So I'm going to take that out so there's room for my hook. And then go right in there. Join with a slip stitch. And if you want to, you can mark that slip stitch and then chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I got this big stitch marker, so we'll mark the 3rd one. And remember, it's not the loop that's on your hook. And so we're set up, so when we finish our next round, we'll be able to tell exactly where we are and what happened. So this is where we joined with a slip stitch, and this is where we did our chain 3. Okay, questions? Any questions at all?
We have had a request to repeat row 3 and just receive one to start over. I don't know if we have time to start over completely. We are about halfway through class.
That's the beauty of having a recorded show, because you can watch it again. So at the beginning of chain 3, now this is how I interpreted it, because so
when are we changing colors, Darren?
Well, that's going to be row 4. Once we get past row 3, we'll change on row 4. So do we want to go to row 4, or do we want to see row 3 again?
We might as well redo 3 since we're here.
All right. So this is my chain 3, and this is where I joined it. I joined it with a slip stitch. So basically that's counting this one as the one we joined it to. So this kind of first one is the one we joined the slip stitch to. And then we're skipping the next one. And so basically it seems more like the 3rd one is where we're going. This chain counts as a double crochet. So it's counting this chain as coming out of this stitch right here. And when we come all the way back around, we're going to do a double crochet here and join it. So that'll finish. This is half of a V-stitch. We're going to finish it when we come all the way around. It might have made more sense if they had us do a V-stitch right now and then join it, but they didn't. So this is half of a V-stitch. And so we're skipping that stitch we joined it to. We're skipping the next one. And so it's basically the 3rd one that we're kind of going into. And you can try it. And then if your stitch count doesn't come out right, or you don't think it looks right, you can rip it out and try it a different way. And that's the nice part about doing something like this on such a small round, because it's not that much work. And so we're doing our V-stitch, skipping the next one. Oops, didn't quite work. Skipping the next one. Mine's starting to get kind of stretched out of shape because I've overworked this. To double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and then all the way around. So let's try to move on to row 4 so there'll be more questions on row 4. All right, so I made a little mistake here already because I did my chain 3 and I shouldn't have, because I forgot I was changing colors. So row 4, from the right side, so they want you to hold it the same way all the time. So you might want to stick a safety pin or a stitch marker in the center like this. And then you know this is the right side. So if you lay it down, you're not going to get it turned around by mistake. So that's the right side. So let me take this out. So at the end of row 3, the round number 3, it's telling us to fasten off. So cut your yarn and then pull it all the way through, like if you were finished, because we're finished this round. Okay. Now with row 4, from the right side, which I've marked, draw up a loop of B in any chain 2 space of any V stitch, and then chain 3, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in the same chain 2 space. Okay, so let's see what they're talking about here. So we remember when we did the V stitch, we did double crochet, chain 2, and then a double crochet. So this is what they mean when they say in any chain 2 space. So anyone honestly around here is fine. You don't always have to start and stop at the same place. I kind of like to, so I'm gonna usually do mine close to where my first beginning was. And so to change color with this one, because we fastened off, you just draw up a loop. And now I'm ready to join. So this happens so fast and it's so easy, you might think you're missing something. So let me get a good close up. So put your needle in your chain 2 space. And then, where's my end? So put your needle in your chain 2 space, grab your new yarn, draw up a loop. So it's not really technically attached, but it kind of is starting to. And then when you do your chain 3, now it's attached with my first chain. So 1, 2, 3. Do we want to see that again? It was sometimes when they're so easy like this, it's hard to see what happened. Okay. All right, so let's refer back to our pattern and make sure we're reading it correctly. So from the right side, draw up a loop of B in a chain 2 space of any V stitch and chain 3. So that's where we are. And then it's telling us double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet in the same stitch. So what that is having us do, so
Hey,
this
Darren,
counts, yes?
the version I'm looking at online says for our first shell made, double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 double crochet.
Okay, that's, did I say it wrong?
I think you're just missing that second number 2 there. It's confusing with 2 numbers right next to each other.
Okay, that's what's happened because there's a number 2. Yeah, so double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 double crochet. Thank you for pointing that out. I was saying it wrong. So that this one counts as my first double. So now I'm going to do another double crochet and then chain 2. And in the same chain 2 space, another double crochet. Okay, so and then what we end up with, because that chain counts as a double, I have 2 double crochet, 2 chain, chain 2, and then 2 double crochet at the end in that same chain 2 space. All right, so let's read carefully. And so that is the first shell made. And then it wants us to shell in chain 2 space of each V stitch and then join with a slip stitch at the top. All right, so what I didn't do, and what you don't have to do, but it does make it a little easier, go ahead and mark. So 1, 2, 3, there is my top of my chain. So you could do that. It's better to do that when you first make the chain, so you know exactly where it is. And let's look and see exactly what a shell stitch is because we've not done that yet. So a shell stitch is just 2 double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 double crochet. And that's our little shell stitch. So that's easy. Let's see how that works out. double crochet, chain 2, sorry, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing the V-stitch, but so the shell stitch is 2 double crochet, 2 double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 double crochet. So it gives you a nice big stitch. And what this is doing is increasing your circle so it lays flat and it's not going to curl up. So that's what it looks like with 2. Let's do one more. So you find the V, so that's our V stitch right there. They're easy to find. That's our chain 2 space right there. We're going to do 2 double crochet. So yarn over, 2 double crochet, chain 2. See, I'm saying it, but I'm not doing it. I must be distracted today. So let's go again. 2 double crochet. So 1, there's my double crochet. Number 2 double crochet, chain 2. So 2 double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 double crochet. And if you're having trouble like I am, you might want to put it down and come back to it later. So see how it goes. Yarn over, find the next V-stitch, 2 double crochet, so 1 double, 2 double, and then chain 2, and then 2 double crochet. Any questions about this? I may have confused you thoroughly because I've made them messed up twice. Okay, so let's lay it out and see how it's looking. So what we're getting, and this is starting to form our little star points of our twinkle. So you can kind of see it's starting to shape a little bit like these are going to turn into the points. So I have 2 double crochet, 1, 2, my chain 2 space, and then 2 double crochet for my star, for my shell. Any questions about the shell or how to place that?
Not a
And when you
question about the shell, but a question on with the yarn. Do you prefer using a bamboo or a wooden hook or a metal hook with this yarn?
I only use the metal hook, and the metal hook works very nice with it, but I don't know why a bamboo hook wouldn't work as nice. So last week when we were doing the knitted blanket, I did decide that metal needles were better. I started on wooden knitting needles and it wasn't sliding as nice. So I changed it to the metal ones and it makes it slide much nicer. So a metal hook might be better, but go ahead and try whatever you prefer first and then see what happens. Okay. Any questions at all about this?
And where you've joined the new color, Cheryl wants to know how you keep that yarn tail tight after you've drawn up your first loop.
Just like this. You just kind of pull it snug. If it loosens up, you just kind of pull it snug. And then when you weave in that end, you can see, I could have crocheted over it like I showed you at the beginning, just to here. You don't want to carry it across that chain 2 space because you'll see it. But I could have crocheted over it to kind of secure it a little bit more, and that might keep it more snug. But it's not usually a problem. If it starts to feel loose, just pull, just kind of tighten it up a little bit, and that'll be fine. Or go ahead and weave it in. If you're sure you did everything right, you can go ahead and weave it in. Okay, anything else?
I would say if you joined pretty close to where you cut your other color, you could just tie those 2 ends together while you're working, and that would keep it a little bit tight as well.
But you don't want to leave them tied together, right?
Correct. You always want to take out your knot and weave in the ends. Knots are bad.
They do come untied. You think they're secure, but they do come untied and cause problems for you in the long run. So here's what it looks like with row 4 finished. So we've prepared little swatches for each row, so we can try to get through this the best we can. And then 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to join. Okay, so I finished row 4. So this is starting row 5. So starting row 5, we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch. So I'll show you how to do that. Then we're going to chain 3. So don't get in the habit of just finishing the row and chaining 3. And I tend to get into that habit because usually when you're crocheting, if you finish a round or a row, usually the next thing is you chain up for the next row. You chain 2 or 3 or 4, whatever you're doing. So try not to get into the habit of doing that. So we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch and then chain 3, and that counts as our double crochet. We're going to shell in the next chain 2 space, double crochet in the next stitch, skip the next 2 stitches, and then double crochet in the next stitch. And then we're going to repeat from the asterisk all the way across until we get to the last chain 2 space, and we'll worry about that then. Okay. So what they want us to do is they want us to start working in this chain 2 space. So we're going to slip stitch over to there, chain 3, and then we're going to shell in the next chain 2 space. So that's just getting us there. We don't want to chain through 3 here and then try to stretch it over. So for a slip stitch, you just enter the next stitch like if you were going to do any stitch. So there's my next stitch. You just enter it, yarn over, bring the loop through all of them. And then you're just kind of crawling over there or sneaking over there. So now I can chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and that counts as a double crochet. I'm going to shell in this chain 2 space. So we've been doing that. We know how to do it. So if I'm paying attention, I'll do it correctly. So chain 2, 2 double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 double crochet. Okay. Now it wants us to double crochet in the next stitch. Lost my place, sorry. Shell in the next chain 2 space, double crochet in the next stitch, skip the next 2 stitches. So we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches. So this one and this one, we're going to skip the next 2. You probably can't see that clearly. So we double crocheted here in this one, and we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. So sometimes it's easier to look at the post to decide which is the stitch. So right here and right here are the next 2 stitches. I know the chain 2 kind of counts as a stitch, but it doesn't really. They're not counting that as a stitch. So we're skipping this double crochet and we're skipping this double crochet. So we're kind of jumping over that chain 2 space. Exactly where am I?
Question before we get too far away from the beginning of the round. Would you mark the slip stitches at the beginning or the first chain 3?
Sorry, what was that question?
Would you mark the top of the chain, that chain 3, or your first slip stitch as the start of the round?
I would mark the chain 3. So 1. Because if you look at the end, it's going to have you join with a slip stitch at the top of the beginning chain 3. So that's where you're going to need to worry about. Okay. So skip the next 2 and then double crochet in the next one. Okay. I keep losing my place in the pattern. So skip the next 2 stitches, double crochet in the next stitch, and then we're going to repeat from the asterisk all the way around. So that just means we're going to go back to this asterisk. We're going to shell in the next chain 2 space, double crochet in the next stitch, skip the next 2 stitches, and then double crochet in the next stitch, and just keep repeating that. So basically what we're going to end up with is we're going to end up with a double crochet on one side. We're going to end up with our shell, so 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 double crochets. That's our shell right there. And then we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. So when I was doing this, it helped me to look at it that way, depending on how they arrange the stitches or how you're thinking about them. It helped me to keep track of what I was doing, to remember that I have a double crochet, my shell stitch, and then I'm ending with a double crochet. So it's kind of like bookended in there. Okay, and then we skip 2 stitches, and then we do a double crochet, chain 2. I'm sorry. Start our shell, we do 2 double crochet in that chain 2 space, chain 2, and then we end our shell with 2 double crochets, and then we do a double crochet in the next stitch, and that kind of ends, and then we skip 2, so we're going to skip these 2, and then double crochet in the next one, and then progress all the way around. Any questions about what I'm doing or where I'm going into? Are you able to see? And that is helping to start really to define these points. So we're going to kind of get the points of our star really going. Any questions about any of that? No? Pretty good? Okay. And so here's what it looks like when that round is finished. Okay, just like that. And that was round 5. So this is starting round 6. So round 6, and it seems like there's a lot going on in round 6. And sometimes that can be confusing. And so what I'll do is I will take Post-it notes and kind of block out everything that I don't need. I'll stick Post-it notes kind of over what I'm not looking at. And sometimes it kind of helps to lead your eye just to the right spot. So from the right side, draw up a loop of A in 3rd double crochet of any shell. And that is the double crochet immediately following the chain 2 space. And then we're going to chain 3, and that counts as a double crochet. Now it's very important that you do this exactly as it's instructing you, because if you don't, then your whole count, it's going to be all off. So you really do need, sometimes you don't have to do exactly what you're told, but with this one you do. So we're going to chain 3, and that counts as a double crochet. Double crochet in the next stitch, skip the next 2 stitches, double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then shell in the chain 2 space. Now this is very similar to what we were doing on the previous round. Okay. So I fastened off, and I'm going to join my lavender. Now let's look at this very carefully. So let's find that's our chain 2 space. So here's my shell right here. So double crochet, chain 2 space. So there's my chain 2 space. And here's my next double crochet. So that's the 3rd one. So 1, 2, 3. It's the one right after the chain 2 space. Does that make sense? So I'm going to enter there, draw up a loop, and basically it's connected. It's kind of like pretend connected. But when you do your first chain one, now it's connected. So 1, 2, 3. And so here's a good example of the other question. You see it does get pulled kind of loose. So just pull it back in there and it should be fine. Okay, so there is my chain 3. Counts as a double crochet. Double crochet in the next stitch, skip the next 2 stitches. So pretty much exactly what we're doing before, where we're double crocheting and then skipping. So double crochet, and then skip the next 2 stitches. Wait a minute, I think I started in the wrong place. So it's very important that you don't start in the wrong place. And if it doesn't work out right for you, then you know you've done something wrong, and I'll show you how to tell that. So you're going to double crochet in the next stitch, skip the next 2, so this one. So we're skipping these 2, so kind of like the last one in each of the clusters. And then we're double crocheting in the next 2, so these 2. So double crochet in the next 2. Okay, so double crochet in the next 2. And then we're going to shell in that chain 2 space. So once you get the shell down, you know, you don't have to refer back to it. So we're comfortable with that by now. So going to do my double crochet. So double crochet, chain 2, and then double crochet, double crochet. So what you need to remember is you're always doing your shell stitches in the chain 2 space here. So you're never skipping one. So if your count is off somehow and you end up over here and it says to do a double crochet or do a shell in the next chain 2 space, and that has you skipping one to this one, you know your count is off. So each one of these repeats, it kind of takes you down this hump into this valley, and then it brings you back up to the peak right here. So it's kind of bringing you this way. And then the next one brings you the same. Does that make sense? So that way you know if things are working well. So I finished my shell. So I'm going to find exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So repeat from the asterisk. So we're going to double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So that's these 2 right here. It's these 2. So I finished my shell, double crochet in these 2. So in the previous row, remember I said you have your shell and you have one double crochet on each side of it, and that kind of bookends it in. In this one, you have a shell, but you have 2 double crochets on each side of it. So it kind of is booked. There's my shell, and it has 2 double crochet, one on each side, one set of 2 double crochets on each side. So 2 double crochets, shell, and then 2 double crochets. So that's kind of what we're setting it up as. So if you kind of look at it that way, it starts to make sense. And then we're going to skip the next 2. So we're skipping those 2. And we're going to double crochet in the next 2. So that's giving us our 2 double crochet on this side of this shell. And then we're going to shell. You see, I'm shelling in that chain 2 space. So shell, double crochet, chain 2, and then finish it off. And then you just continue that way all the way around. And I know it sounds like a lot when you're first starting it, but really by the time you get to the third repeat of it, it's really just like the row before, only you're doing 2 double crochet before your shell and 2 double crochet after. And after you're finished that, it looks like this. And if you look at the end of the rounds, it tells you what you should have. You should have 4 double crochets along each side of the 12 points. And so they're looking at it like, here is my point. These are my points. And they're looking at 4 double crochet on each side of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here's my cluster. So that's really all you're looking at. And you should have 12 points, so it's a good time to count right here. Count them all, make sure there's 12. And you'll see they're starting to become more pronounced as points, and you can kind of help them a little bit. And then starting the next round, it's pretty much the same thing, only you're just, it's a new round and you're increasing even more to make it bigger. And then you just continue on until you get to round, and then you're really just repeating it as you go. And then you can just pretty much keep going and make it as big as you want. Like you could make a baby blanket, you could make this big enough for like a king size bed. You can just keep going and make it however you want. So any questions? We have 3 minutes left. Any quick questions about anything that we've covered? Anything at all?
While you're putting your questions in the chat there, I'm going to pop the link to the handout and the handout PDF in case you need those. Could you stop at this row and make it a doily?
Yes, you can do anything. That's the best part. You can do anything you want. Yeah, you could stop at this row, make it a doily. You could do some kind of a lace finishing edging around the edge to make it a little fancier. But once you get to this point, you can take the concept and the skills that you've learned here and apply it to other projects. So that's what I really like to encourage people is like, once you've learned like the shell stitch and you can do an entire blanket out of the V-stitch, and that's very pretty. So, once you've learned these skills and these, little concepts, you can take this and apply it to lots of other projects, and you can do this in many, many different ways. And it'll look a lot different in different yarns. If you did this in like a thin cotton yarn, it would look like a doily. So very nice.
And just a reminder that the recording of this class will be available tomorrow afternoon on michaels.com/classes and on the Michaels YouTube channel.
Okay. And if you do have any questions going forward, you can contact me on Facebook, and it's just my name. If you want to contact me on Instagram or TikTok, send me a direct message. My name is Mr. Woolly Bear. It's M-I-S-T-E-R, Woolly Bear, all spelled out. And maybe Claire will put that in the chat. I don't mind answering questions. It's really, I hate to feel like I'm sending you out without anyone to turn to. So just, answer. And I usually try to answer pretty quick. So, all right, anything else?
Could you also keep increasing to make a larger blanket?
Yeah, you could make a king size. Like once you get to rows 8 and 9. So basically, once you get to rows 8 and 9, it's going to have you repeat rounds 8 and 9 until you have 19 double crochet along each side. So you're basically just increasing the number of stitches you have on each side of your cluster or your point, and you can keep going, or you can stop at any time. You can keep going as long as you want. You can make a great big parachute or something. I wouldn't advise trying to use it, but Anything else? All right, then, thanks for coming to class. If you have any questions, just send me a message, let me know, and I guess that's it. So have a good night.